Welcome, everybody. We are back. We are exploring different topics in our season 3, and back with us is return guest Sonia Tovar. Hello, Sonia.
Hi.
Hey.
So, Sonia,
Thanks for having me back. I'm honored.
That's right. We had her a couple seasons ago, Ruben. I'm not sure if you recall.
I know. I don't recall. So thank you for brushing me up. But I just thought that we would talk about the topic of behavior, only because I know we're going to discuss this week, and we might even discuss in this episode what we lost during the pandemic in terms of ability, maybe not abilities, but in terms of reading strengths, reading scores have plummeted, writing, math, and things like that. So we lost some of that with the loss of in-school learning. But I guess perhaps some people have noticed a change in behavior, and perhaps there's been a struggle to maintain classroom management. Now, I'm not saying that's the case with me or with you two, but what would you, I guess the question would be for both of you, and we'll take turns, is what do you do when a student is exhibiting behavioral issues, behavioral problems? Now, there's a kind of an idea of the last resort is sending them to the principal's office. Nobody wants that. That's the idea. The principal doesn't want it, and the teacher probably doesn't want it, the student, because that's the last resort, and there's other reasons for that. But what do you think, Sonia? What do you do in cases where you have a troubled student? Maybe they're not mixing with you or their peers. Maybe this is going to turn into a story time where we just tell stories.
Tell three stories.
No strategies. We just talk.
The worst kids.
I've been cussed out.
No, not you.
I've been taken. Someone took pictures of me and posted me on Instagram with some bad words that I don't speak.
Sonia, actually, what grade?
Yeah, what grade?
That was it. That was my 10 years in 8th grade.
Okay.
Now I'm 3rd grade.
Okay.
So
you've had some rough experiences. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So what do you do now? Like when you have a student that shows perhaps kind of is pushing back on you and your lesson, what do you do?
Well, I have a progression in my class of steps that I take. But the first thing that we do is establish classroom expectations. So then it's real easy to fall back on a reminder of that. I could redirect one student by reminding the whole class. Sometimes I do that if I'm in the middle of teaching a lesson. And then that helps that one student remember, and then they straighten up real quick. So that's one thing I might do. And then if that doesn't work, then then there's the teacher look.
No, wait a minute. So you're going to your second thing, aren't you? Before you go to the second, so you're giving a teacher look. But I do want to say with your first thing, I think that's a really effective idea where you have a message for one, but instead of giving it to the one, you give it to all.
Yeah.
And it kind of, I like it because it kind of puts the pressure off that kid. He doesn't feel like she doesn't feel like they're getting picked on.
Yeah, definitely. It eliminates that, especially if they're a frequent flyer.
Right.
And you have to call their name often. So, and it helps everyone else too. They all redirect their brain.
That's good.
Now you said you give a teacher look.
Yeah,
sometimes that works.
Or
Put your hand up.
Yeah. Like if I have a student that's having trouble interrupting, not taking their turn, it's not their turn to talk, someone else is talking, I might just give them a little look and go like this, and then they remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? I don't want to jump the gun, Ruben, but as she's sharing that, it kind of reminds me of one of the things that I do, which is, is it okay if I share?
Yeah. Yes.
I go stand right next to the kid, close proximity, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I stay there for a while and I go, okay, this is where I'm going to stay today, you know?
Yeah.
And I just give my lesson from there and they get it. And then once I see that they're straightening up, I have freshmen this year, which I haven't had in years. I've teaching usually juniors and seniors, which I don't have too much behavior issues, but with the freshmen, I'm having them. So I'm standing quite often with the in front and they get straightened up pretty quick usually.
So freshmen spent
like
virtual learning as 7th graders.
Yeah.
Which is a very difficult year. That's the year that no one wants to teach.
Sonia, these kids are tough, these 9th graders. and their writing and their reading is I feel so bad. And I feel bad for them actually. I say, you know what, they're frustrated. And so they're acting out. We have
a lot of their socialization was stunted.
Yes.
Big time. Yeah. We're having a lot of fights that are, I mean, I don't want to get into it, but there's some fights and just, you can imagine. I'm glad you shared that because it's so true.
So you mentioned socialization. I wasn't going to say this, but I will say this. The idea of socialization is something to be considered. And what I am not sweating the small stuff this year. Like I noticed that I don't like students getting up out of their seats.
Yeah.
But I noticed that 2 or 3 will start to move toward the door, but they'll stop and they'll start to socialize and they'll gather around each other and talk. And I don't make a big deal out of that because, I mean, they're talking.
Yeah.
They're socializing, and a lot of them forgot to do that, or they haven't gotten used to doing that.
Yeah.
And participating in that, like normal 9th graders, 8th graders do. So I'm not sweating those little things. I'm letting them talk and gather.
Same here. I'm not quite as strict as I used to be because of that. They do need the chance to chat and interact in a healthy way.
Now, I will say that when I have a kid who is giving me a lot of grief, sometimes it's because they want attention and they want to be the star of the show. So what I have done is I have cut that audience off, and I try not to do a lot of things with the big class. Or if I have that plan, I will shut it down. If a kid's really trying to be the class clown, then I will either put him in a small group or give him his own assignment. I say that because I noticed there's another teacher at our school who's having trouble with this particular kid that I actually have. He doesn't present problems in my class like that. And I think, well, why doesn't he do that to me? And I think it's because I don't give him a chance to. I don't ask a lot of questions to the whole class. I isolate him and I put him in his own group. Problem solved.
That's true. And also a strategy with those students who want the attention is the 5-to-1. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's if you have one negative interaction with a student, it's healthy. It helps them to counteract it with 5 positive ones. So then if I had to call on him or her for a negative reason, then I'm gonna check in with them later or give them a compliment or call on them because I saw them doing their work and ask them to share like 5 times, which seems like a lot, but then the negative interaction that happened, they're not dwelling on it and they're able to move on, and then you see the behaviors decrease.
Yes.
It's kind of difficult though. I mean, because we're humans. Sonia, I wish we had this discussion yesterday because I had a student yesterday who was I could tell he had a lot going on. And I had to isolate him. Well, I guess this is another strategy, right? I had to isolate him. And then I thought, you know what? Just like you're sharing, I go, I need to go to him and check on him, see how he's doing. And I started thinking, at first I didn't want to do it, Sonia. I was really thinking that. I go, I don't like this kid right now. And then I said,
they're on your nerves.
And then I felt like he was really receiving it well when I was coming to him and saying, hey, good job, look at his work. And then I'm like, oh, he's really eating this up. And then I felt so guilty. Like I did not want to deal with him. But I mean, I think we're human, but at the same time, I'm so glad you share that. It's so true. We have to
They
come
need
back.
it.
They do.
Yes.
There's
I
a
don't care what
reason they're
grade.
doing that in the first place.
Yes.
They probably don't get that positive interaction with adults other places.
I love it when a student is giving me behavioral problems, but gives a really great answer 5 minutes later.
Right.
So that actually happened this week. This kid said something, and I go, "What? What are you talking about? You're being ridiculous." You know, he said something ridiculous, and then but we were reading Death of a Salesman, and he gave a great answer. And I go, "Wow, you understand this play clearly." I said, I'm not mad at you anymore for your other ridiculous comment. And he laughed.
Ridiculous.
He laughed, and other students laughed because I kind of made it clear that, hey, you redeemed yourself.
Yeah.
For
Well, I have one right now who is highly intelligent, you know, off the charts, and he's always bugging his neighbors and making noise. And the other day he pulls out a personal sized battery powered electric sharpener right while I'm teaching. Zzz. So at that point I was like, what?
Wow.
So I just walk over there and I say, "That's mine now," and I keep teaching. You know, what about my $6 that cost me? You know, so you know.
But that's great though, that what you did was you didn't stop. You kept smiling. It didn't stop you from doing what you're doing. So that's really critical. Like what I started telling my paras in the class, anybody who's come in, is don't address the behavior, address the standard that we're teaching. So like, I'll give you an example. Like, and maybe I've said this on this channel before, but like if they're doing, alternative to the assignment, whatever, if they might be on YouTube or whatever they're doing, instead of saying, get off that website, just say, do you understand the topic sentence? Do you understand what to do here?
Yeah.
And you keep that. And you don't sway. You keep, so that in the way you were doing that, you kept smiling and you kept with the assignment. But when you address the behavior, when you mention their behavior, that's when you're playing in their realm.
Yeah.
That's what they want to hear, and then they become the star of the show.
Exactly.
A negative thing, yeah.
Could laugh about it later, usually.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Because I have one more.
What can I ask? Go ahead, Sonia.
Well, after the look, I give a verbal warning, and then I have what's called a behavior log in my class. And so after a warning, if they're still continuing, then they have to go to the back of the room. I have a binder and a page with everyone's name on it, and they just have to turn to their page, and it's like a reflection. They write the date, what happened, and sign, and then it's a record that I keep for parent conferences, and then, or if the principal ever has to talk to them, then I have it all there. And in their writing, they told what happened. They usually draw pictures. And the way they describe what happened is always very interesting. It's from their point of view. And so they know that the only consequence to the behavior log is they won't get the Friday reward. So I don't bench anymore. Benching is counterproductive to their brains. Their brain needs that that playtime, the movement, the exercise, the oxygen.
Now you say benching. I'm familiar with benching because I was benched all my childhood as a baseball player as a kid. Yeah. But what do you mean by benching?
Like they have to sit and watch everybody play during recess.
Oh, I remember that. That was a bummer.
Oh,
you remember that?
And so that we don't do that very, very often anymore because it doesn't help. It makes it worse because they didn't get their energy out during their break. And then they're singled out. Everybody's staring at them. So we have other, just loss of privilege in another way that's more effective.
Very good. Okay. Jacob, what is
I have a couple of things, but one thing is, I do, because I do teach older kids, and so if I really had a bad issue, I'll change seats with the kids. just because it just it is a new environment, you know. They're sitting now, they're, you know, at first maybe in the beginning of the year they didn't know the person next to them, but by, you know, a couple months they're like, oh, this is my new buddy, you know. And so they're like, yeah, you know, you guys too much chatty today, so I'm gonna go ahead and move you, and that helps. That's more for older kids. You know, I will say this, I used to teach middle school as well, and right before, if I were to send, and I didn't send kids out, what I would do a lot of times is my neighbor next door to me, I would just say, okay, you're gonna go next door, and they didn't want to do that. And if it was for younger grade, they hated that. And they even they hated when it was older, because they're like, oh no. And
I
so
do that.
older
Send
kids
them to kindergarten.
right, they were like, oh shit. So we were at K through 12, so I would send kids to elementary and to high school, and so they just didn't like that. But I just felt like that really changed their behavior. They were great after that. Instead of sending them to
I really didn't send people to the principal much, maybe twice in 10 years.
Same here. And you know, for me, it was more for drugs. I had one kid who threw a table over. He was upset, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" I said, "You have to go," because this is. Everyone was frightened, and I was a little frightened. And then he came back the next day, apologized. He just didn't know what he was doing. I said, oh, "Yeah, well, you know what you're up to, right?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm working on that." So it was scary, but I mean, you have to deal. And there are times when there's threatens the safety of the students or your own. You have to deal with it. So, and the only thing you can do sometimes is to remove them from the class. So, but very rare, like you said, a couple times, that's great.
Well, you know, that's the idea, is that you want to avoid doing that. You're right. I haven't sent a kid out to the principal in several years. I think 1 year I sent 4 or 5 times, and it was the same kid. But I think this year, if I had the same kid, I would treat him differently. I've learned some things since then.
Yeah.
But here's one thing I've done, and I think this only works for younger, like maybe middle school or 9th, 10th grade, perhaps an immature kid. But if a kid is just driving you crazy, a couple of times I've just said, "Oh no, I can't take it anymore," and I've stopped the class and I've stopped my lesson, and I've gone on my computer and I've sent out an email to a parent, or I've called the parent in the class. And I did that the first week a couple of times, and it shocks the class into reality that I don't play. Because if I get a certain sense of a class, oh, this class is just here to play around, and then I snap them into order, and it worked. It can work. You have to just find where it can work. You have to just know your place and how the type of kid.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, I use that at home more than at work right now.
I'm gonna call your grandmother.
Well,
Yes.
It's like they know when I don't get real upset too often, but when I do, it's like, uh-oh.
Don't get Miss Tovar upset, or mom. You know what, guys? We didn't mention like phones, because that seems like a big issue at the high school right now, is the phones. And I don't know, you teach at high school, Ruben, as well. But what do you guys do with that? I mean, or do you do anything with that? Maybe you don't.
Well, our district policy is they have to be registered with the school in K-8, not high school.
Oh, okay.
So like it has to be like registered that they're going to have a device on campus, and then if it rings, it's supposed to be off and in their backpack during school hours. And so then if it rings in class, I just take it, and then I say, okay, I'm going to label it, and your parents are going to have to pick it up from the office.
Okay.
And usually it's the parent calling.
That happens to me too now. They say, "Oh, my mom's calling me." I go,
"What?"
Do like back in the day when we did it, they called the office and then you call me, right?
But I have 3rd graders, and interestingly, a lot of them have smartwatches because their parents want to track them. So then I don't take those because it's not a phone, but we do have to remove them for testing.
Oh, that makes sense. How about you, Rube? Do you do anything with phones, or that's...
Our students are really good about the policy, which is 0 tolerance. They can't use their phone while at school. I guess during lunch. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe
in class.
Yeah, but not in class. And we immediately have to take it. And I'll just put my hand out, and the kids will say no. A couple. There will be times when a kid might say no, and I go, okay. The dean will take. I go out. to me, the phone is so natural to a teenager that they might bring it out by accident.
Yeah.
Or they might
That
just bring
happens.
it out by habit. So I'll say, give it to me, and I'll give it right back to you at the end of the class. I'm supposed to give it to the dean, but if they don't give it to you, okay, the dean will take it, and your parents gonna have to pick it up. It's gonna be worse for you. But so usually we don't have problems with it.
And what I've noticed too in the past is if I take one or two, they all are good. It's like, okay, you just have to kind of make that one example, and they say, oh, this guy's gonna he's gonna take away our phone if we have them out. And like you said, Ruben, you're right. I think a lot of the time, maybe more than half the time, it's just they forget and they put it out because it's always in their hand. And it's their life now, right? We're in a different world.
Yeah.
Any other items regarding behavioral problems? I think I have one more, but anybody have any thoughts?
No, I mean, we've even talked about the times you do. And I mean, I think also we got to remember that and I didn't know this until I went into the dean's office the other day, that there's some teachers who always send kids and they just know it's in that, and that's frustrating because they could be doing other things and they're from things like regarding, they didn't bring their pencil or they had an attitude. It's like, come on. I mean, these people are, they could be doing something else than taking care of those type of silly things. But I think that I'm glad we're having this discussion because it really should be very rare that we send a child out, and they want to. A lot of times they want to leave the room, so you're giving them what they want. Like even restrooms out. I tell them, okay, I'm timing you here. You got like 4 minutes. Let's go. Because it's not time to go socialize. So, and I think that's an issue that some schools is the whole restroom thing. But definitely we got to give these deans a break.
If a kid goes more than 10 minutes to the restroom, I email the parent. Wow. This is what I'll do in class. This is the thing I'll do in class. I'll email the parent right then and there. I'll CC the student, and I'll tell them they can't use the restroom without an escort anymore. They hate that because they're wandering. I see them. I look outside and they're wandering the halls, having a good time. So it's no bueno. Okay. Very good. Now, Jacob, you had a question regarding
for Sonia. She teaches third grade, right, Sonia? And I've been trying to talk to third grade teachers because there was an article that came out recently, and it referred to all grades, but it just basically shared that test scores for math and for English have gone down, or literature, for writing, math and writing have gone down in this obviously since the pandemic, right? From if we look at 2020 to 2022. And I think as teachers, we would all go like, of course. Yeah, of course. I mean,
it's expected.
It's expected, but then the question then becomes is what are our schools doing regarding helping out these children who are coming to us now, who are behind. And I'm thinking, wow, at the first grade, they should learn how to read. So Sonia, when you get them now at third grade, what's happening? What are you doing? I mean, do you guys have a program on campus that says, hey, we're going to go ahead and work with you? That's my curiosity.
Well, there's two sides to this question. One is the testing dilemma, and that is, what is it really testing or measuring? So part of those test scores is just lack of practice on test taking. And so last year, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders who took the test, it was their first year taking the state test. The 5th graders should have taken it in 3rd grade, but didn't because the pandemic started just before testing. They didn't take it during distance learning, so their first year taking the test was 5th grade. So you have to consider that 3rd through 8th graders, I'm not counting 11th graders, 3rd through 8th graders take the test. How many grades is that? 3 of them, it was their first year taking the test. So to me, that eliminates like one layer of concern. It tells me, okay, they haven't practiced taking this test and they're going to get better at it, because kids, as they get older, they get better at taking that test. That's one side of the issue.
Okay.
The other side is there was some learning loss. So then what do you do? So first you have to figure out what is it that they're missing. So everyone last year was just, getting to know the kids and assessing them, trying to figure out where they are and where the gaps are. And that took several months. So then you haven't really started your curriculum yet. At least at the elementary level, that's how we did it. I don't know about high school. Well, I do know a little bit because my son was in high school, and some teachers did that and some did not. They just started and told you should know this, even though you didn't learn it last year in distance learning. So that was difficult. But so then once you know where all your kids are, that's just like business as usual, because we do that every year. Every year we get a range of levels and abilities, and we figure out where everybody is, and then we design our plan to meet those needs the best we can. And in my district, we're fortunate to have an intervention program. And so then students below or far below in reading specifically will get pulled out for extra intensive reading, small groups with other teachers.
Okay, that sounds great. Now, and when they're pulled out, it's not kind of like, hey, look, guess what? Just kind of like, hey, kind of quietly, just the kid leaves the room, or
there's a schedule. They know, like every Tuesday and Thursday, I go right after recess. I go to this class, and then I come back.
I'm glad your school's doing that, because I just been concerned about that, and I'm like, what are we doing? I just read even something recently for our district that we have these like 4 days that they're saying, hey, these are days that you could be available and help, but they're kind of for intervention. I said, wow, okay. And I'm not sure if they really have a strong plan yet. I think they're working at it. But I know at our school, just like your school, we have these programs for reading and writing and math. And it seems like those are the two big areas, obviously. And they do affect social studies and science, of course. You have to know how to read and write. But yeah, we are getting them at lower writing and reading levels. So yeah. So I'm glad. No, thanks for sharing, because I've been wanting to talk to different third graders, because I know, like I said, first grade, I think you would agree, first grade, it's so important to get that under your belt. If not, then it's going to affect for years, right? So
yeah, well, third grade is really in my opinion, the crucial year. I mean, you in first grade you learn to decode.
Okay.
But by third grade, that's really the year where we hone the comprehension, the informational text, because that's the first year they're going to take the state test.
That's right.
And it's mostly informational text. So they need to know how to annotate online. They need to know how to, read the question, find the answer. There it is. It's no mystery. It's right here on the screen,
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we work on.
And Sonia, isn't it true that you mentioned that they should learn how to annotate and comprehend? There are programs online that help them with those tools. Right?
I use readworks.org, which is free. And the screen actually mimics the SBAC, where you see the text on one half of the screen and the questions on the other half, and then they can highlight, underline the text. And I teach them how to do it. And look, here's the question. Okay, let's go find it. And and so we're not guessing on the answer. The answer's there,
And it's one of those things where you just, like anything else, you keep practicing it. And after a while, the students start to build those skills. So that's really good. And it's a good reminder. I'm glad you mentioned you assess the students, their abilities, how much you mentioned learning loss. But even if we didn't have a pandemic, I argue that you should assess their reading and their writing anyway.
Yeah, that's why I say this is business as usual. I would do that anyways. I'm not really doing anything different.
Yeah. It's the one thing, actually, it's the one thing I didn't bring up in the behavioral thing. Actually, I didn't mention this, but sometimes students lack of ability or their reading struggle will manifest behaviorally. So sometimes it's good. It's another reason why you want to assess their reading is you don't want a troubled child. You don't want them to really bring it out in behavior in the class. So, very good. Anything else?
No, I do want to share. Sonia, I'm not sure if you know, and I hope Ruben doesn't get upset about this, but it's Ruben's birthday coming up.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not gonna say how old, but he's getting up there. Happy birthday, Ruben.
It's a rumor that's not substantiated.
Still looks
Thank you
good.
very
Still
much.
looks good.
Thank you. And you know
You'll
what?
get my annual text.
There
Very
you go.
nice. Thank
Real
you.
friends
And,
text.
you
That's
know,
true.
you know what's funny is that this is a good way to end. I mentioned this kid this week who has been giving problems to other teachers, but not really to me. So I went up to him and I said, you know what? But I get the email chain. I get the emails. I go, you know, it's my birthday week. You know what would be a good birthday gift to me? And he goes, what? I said, start behaving in class so I don't get these emails anymore. I'm getting tired of these emails. And he goes, okay. And he started improving. And I thought, wow, that worked. And a nice birthday
Wish
gift.
we had more than one birthday a year.
I
That would be
know.
great.
I didn't know those going to work. People started seeing
It's funny
that.
how certain things work with some kids and doesn't with others, you know. And then you go, oh, that works. And then you try with another kid, and you're like, oh, I didn't work with the other one. But anyway, thank you, Ruben, and happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sonia, for joining us again.
You're welcome.
And we'll see you all next time on Pod and Deliver. Goodbye.
Goodbye.